Um, First of all, we assume nation states are the main organizing unit of the world. I mean, the outcome is very simple.
Israel is not capable of doing this.
Yes, they are. Because again, you have these assumptions about how the world works and
Mm.
how power is controlled. You need population. No, you don't. And again, your assumptions about the world are just wrong.
They're not getting
Look,
stronger in the West
look, look,
Asia.
look, your understanding of the world is limited, okay? You think the United States actually matters. You think the United States went into Afghanistan, went to Iraq to win the war. The point is not to have successful wars. The point is to have never-ending wars. What I mean to say is that the United States is not in control of the United States.
Two
Right.
agendas are fighting each
Look,
other.
look,
And
I've
it
said this
doesn't
many
matter
times.
if they want to invade Iran. They're going to respond. They're going to destroy those people who are going to invade Iran.
Look, I mean, I've said this many, many times, okay? Look, the United States will invade Iran, and the Iranians will destroy the American invasion force. But what I'm saying is, that's what they want you to focus on. That's what they want you to think about. And I'm saying none of this actually
And
matters.
how do you see the politicians, the decision makers in these countries deciding about their future? Where is the future in their mind?
Um, First of all, we assume nation states are the main organizing unit of the world. We also assume that the leaders of these nation states actually matter. And I think both of these assumptions are problematic. Um, Maybe the people who control Russia, China, the United States, Israel are the same people. I mean, there is that possibility, right? So, you know, again, I think you have to, given this war in Iran, you have to clear your mind. Okay, you have to examine your own assumption of the world. That this is a war of resources between Iran and the United States. It I don't think it is. And again, time will tell. Okay, I don't want to say too much because people will think I'm insane, but I don't think that nation states are really the powers that people think they are. There are other organizations, there are other entities that are above nation states. We saw that in the Epstein files, right? Everyone assumed that Jeffrey Epstein was this Mossad agent or CIA who was blackmailing these powerful Americans in order to garner support for Israel. But there were certain things that happened when we actually read the Epstein files that's very confusing. First of all, why are Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman, why are they going to Jeffrey Epstein begging for money? Bill Gates was the richest man in the world. Reid Hoffman is a billionaire. Why are they going to Jeffrey Epstein and begging for money, right? And then you have Elon Musk, who's very wealthy, and like he wants to party with Jeffrey Epstein. He's sort of almost like bothering Jeffrey Epstein, like, hey man, I hear you for these wonderful parties. Can I join you? And then they use these code words like pizza and grape soda. All right. So again, the Epstein files, if you just look at the Epstein files, the way you think power works, the way you think that the world is run is probably wrong. It probably is.
Yeah. You've mentioned that Ukraine was lost, the war in Ukraine was lost 2 years ago. How do you predict the war in Iran? How do you see the escalation? And what would be the meaning? Because one win or the other lose, or what is the outcome in your opinion?
There
What
will be
would be
no.
the outcome?
I mean, the outcome is very simple. The outcome has been preordained. The outcome is to kill as many people as possible, to destroy the entire global economy, to destroy Iran, to force the United States out of the Middle East, to destroy the Gulf nation states, to suck Turkey into the war, to lead to the creation of the Greater Israel Project and eventually Pax Judaica, and then eventually to create conditions for another world war called the War of Gog and Magog, where Russia and Iran attack Israel together, which will usher in the end of the world. That's a script. That's a plan they have in mind. So it's all been preordained. It's all been scripted out. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And it's only a question of like time frame, like how long will this thing take? But they will send in ground troops into Iran. It will be a disaster, and Iran will be shattered. America will be forced out of the Middle East, and Israel will become the only standing power in the Middle East. That's what's going to happen.
The leadership in the Middle East, in the West Asia, would be mostly influenced by Israelis, because how you mentioned a nation of 9 million people, and we know that they haven't the capabilities, the numbers to occupy all of this land, and how they're gonna manage that, because it's not just about Iran, Turkey. You mean that they're gonna start with Iran, then they go after Turkey, but the whole region, physically, Israel is not capable of doing this.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Because again, you have these assumptions about how the world works and how power is controlled. You need population. No, you don't. Nowadays, with AI, with technology, what you can do is this: you can import labor. And I'm saying after this war is over, okay? When millions are dead, and the Gulf states are destroyed. I mean, you have a lot of loss of life in Iran as well, and in Israel as well. And Israel is trying to be the global empire, so it needs labor, as you point out, right? So what do? Well, you import the labor from India, from China, and from the Philippines. And what do? You microchip them, right? So that you can surveil them. You can control their emotions. You feed them drugs. They're your slaves. And you have like millions and millions, 100 million of these people who will be the humanoid robots of your empire. And it can all be done with current technology. You don't have to actually build new technology to do this, but you will need an AI surveillance state. And that's why Palantir is so valuable, right? Because the idea is for these companies, these AI companies are now being incubated in the United States, Palantir specifically, to come over to Pax Judaica, to come over to Israel and run the surveillance state. That is the plan.
Yeah. And do you think that the war is getting to the East Asia? Is going to get to Japan, South Korea? It's not like through Ukraine that you can feed the Ukrainians with the weapons on the ground. How do you see the big picture of the world?
Look, if you talk about Southeast Asia, all right, again, your assumptions about the world are just wrong. It's a law of the jungle now. Whoever's willing to fight, who's ever willing to die, will win. And look,
Yeah.
you have to see the world not through economic lens. Okay, the economy doesn't matter. It's all about the willingness of your population to fight wars and to die for what they believe in. Okay, and there are exactly 4 nations in Southeast Asia that have a history of dying for what they believe in. Okay, this include Japan, South Korea, North Korea, and Vietnam. The war for Southeast Asia will be between these 4 nations.
Wow. And you see Iran and Russia surviving the current conflict?
So Russia is clearly winning the war in Ukraine, and Russia will become a dominant power in Europe, which will force the rise of Germany as a response to Russia. So what's going to happen is that the American empire is going to finance and support the rise of Germany as a counterweight to Russia. But I think that even though they may fight some wars, I think in the long term, what will happen is a grand alliance between Germany and Russia. And that is the new power in the world. I think a grand alliance between Germany and Russia will be unstoppable. In Southeast Asia, the new power will be Japan. Okay, so these are the 3 major powers in the world: a German-Russian alliance, Israel in the Middle East, and then Japan in East Asia. America will emerge in the Western Hemisphere because they have no competitors. but we can expect that America will have a lot of issues. It'll have civil wars. It will have to defend its territories in South America, in the Caribbean, against guerrilla insurgents who want their sovereignty. But the world is heading towards a new place, a brave new world. We've never seen it before. It'll be complete chaos. And quite honestly, the goal is to kill as many people as possible because the world can't sustain 8 billion people. So you're trying to create as many conflicts as possible to reduce the population so that the population will be easier to govern, to create compliance. So again, I don't want to say too much because, I don't want to come across as conspiratorial or deranged or insane. But if you want to survive what's coming, you have to mentally prepare yourself. You have to tell yourself that maybe what I believe of the world is wrong. Maybe BRICS doesn't matter. Maybe China doesn't matter. Maybe it's all just a delusion. Maybe it's all these lies that the media has been feeding us in order to make us not understand what's really going on. Okay, what's really going on is not a financial war. What's really going on is not a material war, a military war. What's going on is a spiritual war. All right, that's what's really going on.
But the United States is not that capable, Jiang, after all. The United States has been fighting all of these wars and they were defeated in all of them. And just remember, these are the facts. They've been in Afghanistan for 20 years. They got it from Taliban and they delivered it to Taliban before leaving Afghanistan. Afghanistan today is not in the hand of the United States anymore. Iraq is the same. Just look at what is happening right now in Iraq. They're not, all of the bases, the US military bases in Iraq, they were destroyed with all the weapons they had there. And so, how much power do they have to pursue that agenda? I don't see that happening because of the United States is not, getting stronger. They're not getting
Look,
stronger in the West
look, look,
Asia.
look. Your understanding of the world is limited. Okay, you think the United States actually matters. You think the United States went into Afghanistan, went to Iraq to win the war, to control these places. But Julian Assange, he said something really important. What he told us is this: the point is not to have successful wars. The point is to have never-ending wars so that the military-industrial complex, this transnational security system, can steal from the American taxpayer. Okay? So what you need to understand is this: America, this nation state, it's just a host. What matters is the parasite. What matters are the secret societies, these transnational capital groups. That's who controls the world. Okay, and these were the ones behind everything, right? China and Israel and the United States, and they choreograph these wars in order to extract as much wealth as possible from their nation state hosts before the nation state collapses. All right, that's what's happening. These parasites intend for America to lose this war in Iran so that they can collapse the entire American economy and drive millions and millions into abject poverty where they will own nothing and be happy. That's the game plan here. You have $40 trillion in debt. The only way that you can get rid of this debt is by destroying the American economy, by collapsing the American economy.
Yeah. You mean that the United States right now, the agenda would be to be defeated in Iran, or they're meant to be winning in Iran?
What I mean to say is that the United States is not in control of the United States. That's what I mean to say. 80% American people do not want this war in Iran. Okay, 80% of the American people are like, we don't want this war. Most people are against this war, even though traditionally, once a nation enters a war, the public is very supportive of the military. But the American people are not supportive at all of this war. Then there's talk of ground troops. And the American public, again, do not want ground troops in Iran. Guess what? Doesn't matter. No one cares. No one cares what the American public wants. About
Yeah.
99% of Americans say, we don't want this war. They're still going to fight this war. So clearly, America is not a democracy. All right. So, and then it's like, well, okay, in like November, we'll have these midterms and the Democrats will come in and stop this war. Well, let me tell you this. Even if the Democrats were to win the midterms, and that is also suspicious and unlikely given what's happening. But even if the Democrats were to win the midterms, when they come to office, Congress would still allow Trump to fight this war. Okay? The Democrats have done absolutely nothing at all to stop Trump from fighting this war. Congress has a constitutional obligation to declare war. And they should have organized a vote in order to stop the president from declaring war. It's something called the Powers Act, okay? It should have been scheduled before the war started. And what they did was this. They scheduled the War Power Act debate to be on Tuesday, like 4 days before the actual attack. Okay, so they knew the attack was coming, and they scheduled at a particular time when it would not be relevant. Okay, so Congress is not stopping the president. Congress is enabling the president. Ground troops, all right, ground troops. Not one powerful Democrat has said, I'm against ground troops. What you have is people like Chuck Schumer saying, oh, I've looked at the evidence. I've been briefed by Marco Rubio, and yeah, the situation is worse than we think, So it's all just a deception. It's all just an illusion. It's already been decided what's going to happen. It's all a script. Okay. And the idea that actually, the American people can vote their way out of this, no, they can't. That's it's like 99% of humanity, like even more than 99%. Like, maybe there's only a few thousand people actually in charge of anything. Okay, but they're able to do whatever they want.
But it's all about the United States, and many people, in Iran, they say it doesn't matter what they're thinking of. If they want to invade Iran, come here, and we're waiting for them. That's why they're prepared for the ground invasion. They really feel that they can defeat the United States on the ground as well, and that's the calculation. What you've just mentioned is all about the United States and how they feel. We know the feeling at the agenda of the United States is not the end game, is not the outcome. The outcome is the combination of both forces, as we saw in Ukraine. And Iran, you have a calculation of two alternatives, the United States and Iran. The two
Right.
agendas are fighting each
Look,
other.
look, I
And it
said this
doesn't
many
matter
times.
if they want to invade Iran. They're going to respond. They're going to destroy those people who are going to invade Iran.
Look. I mean, I've said this many times. Okay. Look, the United States will invade Iran, and the Iranians will destroy the American invasion force. But what I'm saying is, that's what they want you to focus on. That's what they want you to think about. And I'm saying none of this actually matters.
Yeah.
What really matters is for us to understand who is actually behind the curtain, pulling these strings. Okay, someone is doing this. It's probably not Trump, because, I mean,
No, it's not.
it's not Trump who's doing this. It's other people who are doing this. So first question is like, who is actually doing all this, and how are they actually able to pull this off? And this is actually something that we need to truly understand. That's the war we need to fight. This is not a war between the United States and Iran. That doesn't really matter in the end. It's really about a war of self-knowledge. Do each of us have the will, have the courage to seek the truth out, even though the truth can shatter our very sense of reality? Okay, so let me end with this note. Okay, let me tell you what we need to do if we are to win this war individually. Okay, Plato's allegory of the cave. Plato's allegory of the cave is this: everyone is chained to the floor. All right, you're shackled to the floor. You can't move. Even your head, you can't move because of a chain. You can only steer ahead. You're staring at an empty wall. Okay, behind you is a fire. behind you is fire. And then there are certain people, the elite, the true power in the world, they put up these puppets that the fire then reflects as shadows onto the wall. And then what we do is we look at the wall and we create our own reality. Okay, we give them we create a language, we make up stories about these shadows on the wall, and that's the reality that we live in today, where we think it's all real, but it's all an illusion. Okay, and the people behind the fire pulling the strings, they're the real power. The United States, Russia, China, this war between the United States and Iran, that's all an illusion meant to distract you from trying to turn over and figure out what's really going on behind the scenes. Okay? And that is a challenge for us as human beings, to not be lied into this conflict before us, to think that, okay, it really matters who wins, the United States or Iran. It doesn't really matter. It really matters if Israel becomes an empire or not. It doesn't really matter. It matters if BRICS is successful or not. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. What matters is our understanding of the world. What matters is our desire, our courage to seek the truth, no matter how painful the truth is. That's what matters.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jiang, for being with us today. It was a great pleasure to talk with you. These questions, somehow many people would say, and this question, that question, but we have to explore, we have to find, your understanding of the world, which was amazing to me to understand it. And I think which is hopeful, helpful for many people who are watching us. It was a great pleasure to have you on, Jiang.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me, Nima. Okay.
Yeah.
Take
See you
care.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.